Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the This is the Music Meets Podcast, an independent podcast show that's dedicated to introducing you to rising indie and alternative artists from across the UK and Ireland. If you're new to the podcast, then please hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any future episodes, and feel free to leave a comment as it really does help us beat those algorithms. It's now time for episode 117, and I'm delighted that indie rockers The Great Leslie are returning to the podcast for the second time. Over the course of today's episode, we're going to talk about the brand's brand new single, No Future, EP number 3, supporting James Blunt in Germany, their upcoming live shows in Germany, and much, much more. So, Ollie and Freddie, thank you very much for coming back to the This is the Music Meets podcast. How are you both doing today?
Yeah, good man. How you
Doing
doing?
great. Thanks for having us.
No, brilliant. Well, it's great to have you on. And obviously, just before, I made mention off screen there that so this is your second appearance there on the podcast. So, anyone who's listening along, you can find that episode in the episode bio. It's going to be coming up on your screen just now. So, you guys, obviously, last time you was in a studio, I think, together rehearsing. I'm guessing today, looking at your backgrounds, that you're both at home, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my
Well,
background is very boring. I do apologize.
It's all good. It's all good. Obviously, as I say, he was obviously on sort of I think about sort of 5-6 months ago, I think roughly. And obviously since then it's been really, really busy for you guys. You obviously had a headline, sort of big UK headline tour. So kind of like for you, how was the tour? And have you got any sort of stories that you can share with us about the tour?
I think we have more stories we can't share with you.
yeah.
They're the ones that we
But
want.
yeah, but
True.
I'm just realizing it's been a while since we've done that tour, and it was great because we played in Scotland for the first time. So we kicked it off in Glasgow and went to Edinburgh afterwards, which is a very, very pretty city if you haven't been. And people really appreciate the rock music up there as well, So we had a great time. We met some great people. We even had some people, travel to Edinburgh for us to see us play, which was great, from further up north in Scotland. So and then because it was the north to south tour, we gradually went down, played in Manchester, which was fantastic, and yeah, no, we had a London show as well. And it's just very exciting, to be on tour. And yeah, we're planning a tour right now. So people can get very excited. We will come to some cities as well where we've never been before. With all the new music, we're very excited to get it out there.
Yeah. It was good fun. But we did a silly thing, didn't we? We went out in the middle of the tour. We got
Yeah,
we got drunk, which is just like it's the dumbest fucking thing you can do, and I don't know why we
rookie
did.
mistake.
We
Yeah,
ne- it's just a kind of a reminder to never do it again. And then
yeah, we
Ryan,
peaked too early.
yeah, Ryan got tonsillitis, and then I got tonsillitis, and then I was singing with a swollen throat for about 3 gigs, and then the day after that night, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this show. But
But you did
it's
it.
just
You
so
did it.
it's so pathetic, isn't it? Like guys that have been doing this for years, and then they go and do something as stupid as that. I'm just like, why did we do that?
Yeah, it was
Anyway,
great fun though.
yeah, it was a good
Yeah,
night.
we did karaoke. We did karaoke.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
and people did not like Ollie because the one guy you don't like at karaoke is the guy who can actually sing.
Yeah.
So he picked Ollie. I can tell this right, but he picked Queen, "Somebody to Love," which is probably one of the hardest songs to sing, and he obviously he smashed it, and
Yeah.
people were just like booing him. That was great fun.
Wow, that must be almost the first in karaoke history, right?
Yeah. What booing? Yeah.
Yeah. Someone that was good. I mean, like that's
Oh, right.
Yeah.
weird.
I don't like karaoke for that specific reasons. For people that, not for people that can't necessarily sing, but it's for people that don't do it professionally, really. People, who don't pick up a microphone. So when I'm there. I don't like to do it, but they were
That's
like,
why,
no,
yeah,
we've all got to do it.
that's why I don't play Guitar Hero.
I would like to say that's my excuse as well, but I'm not very good at playing the normal guitar. So yeah, Guitar Hero, not a chance. So obviously the new single came out on Friday. It's
Yeah.
punchy. It's obviously called No Future. As I say, last Friday, very punchy. And if you've not heard that track, it is in the episode bio. And if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then the track will be at the end of the episode as well. It's really heavy hitting and direct. So, and I have to say that I'm absolutely loving it from the minute that you guys first sent it across to me. So can you then just give us a little bit of background into the track?
Yeah. I think we so the last two EPs we did 21st Century Problems, and that was kind of a bit punkier and more politically driven, shall we say. And then the one after that, that was more recent, was Heavy Unsteady, and that was a bit more dancey, and it was kind of detailing the degeneration of a night out. And I think we wanted, in some ways, to marry the two. Didn't want to be too politically driven, so more socially
Mhm.
aware. But we also wanted to be punky with a degree of kind of danciness. So that kind of informed the music and the subjects as well. So yeah, it was kind of that, and just experimenting and seeing where we go next. Sometimes it's just like, you don't necessarily go in with that much direction. We knew kind of what we wanted to do, but it was a bit like, well, let's just play something and see what happens. There was a few songs that Fred and I had been writing for a while, just like ideas here and there, just bouncing about that we never like got back to, and then we were like, oh, this might work with this, which happens sometimes, and that's really nice. Um, but yeah, no, there were a few different things along the way. I can't remember all the specifics. Maybe you can elaborate, Fred.
No, I think that's pretty bang on. I think what's interesting to say as well is the recording process, because we've done this one a bit differently to what we would usually do. Because what we did not do this time was we wrote a chorus and then we wrote a verse and then we wrote a pre-chorus or whatever.
Mhm.
But we wrote completely. So we wrote the sections and we gave them names rather than calling them a chorus.
Yeah.
Because what you often find yourself doing is you play something and you already think, oh, this sounds like a chorus, so let's make this a chorus. But this time we just got 5 or 6 different sections. We gave them names, and then we put them together afterwards. And so a bit of a different approach. So you had one that was Jeff and one was Anna or whatever, and then you got Jeff, Anna, Dave, whatever. If that sounds confusing,
It
that's
was.
because it is. So eventually we started calling it a chorus and a verse, but that was sort of the approach, and I think it worked because with this one, I mean, you can hear that it sounds different. It's a bit. I mean, it's still funky, but it hits quite hard compared to more of the dancier stuff we've done with the previous EP, and I think that's mainly because of the message we're trying to bring across. It's a strong message, and that needs strong music as well. But yeah, and of course I think we can confidently say that we know a guy at Abbey Road who mixed it, and I'm not sure if for me when I heard it the first time when I got the mixes, I was like, whoa, this sounds very different to what we've done before because it sounds absolutely massive.
Hmm.
So yeah, in a sense, it's different, but also it's still Leslie. It's very dancey still. Even though it may hit a bit harder and we got more overdrive on it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with you saying there about when you first heard it, or when I first heard it, sorry, that it was like, wow, this is sounding very big, but you still got that sort of distinct sort of sound to it, the Great Leslie sort of sound to it. But what has the reaction been like to it? Because obviously the lyrics are maybe they're a little bit tongue in cheek, but they are quite sort of direct in sort of a little bit of a not sure political is the right word, maybe like a bit more like a social commentary with, especially with
Yeah.
the chorus there, with the no future stuff. So kind of like what, because for me, there aren't many bands that are adopting that type of approach. So is that something that you guys, it sort of happened naturally, or is it just sort of something that you feel quite strongly about?
Well,
Yeah,
Ollie writes the lyrics, so he should probably answer this.
I think that everything that I write lyrically and that we also go, or maybe we should talk about this, or maybe this would be fun. It's all stuff that we feel to be true to our own situation, or some
Mhm.
or stuff that has happened to us, or stuff that we deeply resonate with. No Future is about the difficulties of young people in modern Britain, basically,
Mhm.
cost of living um and just essentially not being able to afford, even to rent in certain areas, let alone buy your own home. And that's not singular to young people as well. It just happens that that's it's just a lot harder for them. Um, and it's not we don't I don't go in with a view to because we're not a punk band.
Mhm.
We're an indie band that dips into loads of different areas of music. But if something feels like it should be angry, or something should feels like it should be direct, or it should be sarcastic, or it should be happy or sad or whatever, if that's the nature of what we're talking about, that's the nature of the music itself as well, which is why it is punchy and it sometimes is a bit offbeat, and then it goes in heavy, and it's has almost a nihilistic kind of um take on in the chorus. Um, So yeah, it all has it for want of trying to sound like a great songwriter. It all has purpose, you know. I know that to a certain degree, even like you said, it's not necessarily political, it's more social. But social issues are and have been, particularly over the last decade, deeply politicized. So whenever you touch anything like that,
Mhm.
people are a bit like, oh, don't know.
Yeah, but
Um, but it doesn't mean I don't think that's bad though, because like if you look
mm,
at people like Idols or Fontaine's DC, those guys touch the political. It's just because that's their um that's their realm. People accept that's what they do. We just write what we love and hope that the right people listen to it and go, actually, they don't that there may not always be, they're not the Sex Pistols always banging on and spitting at people and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that we don't feel a certain way about things. We can talk about having a mad night out, and then we can also talk about the fact that in and of itself precludes the fact that we can't buy a house because we've gone and spend a few quid on a night out, which is ridiculous in and of itself. You should be allowed to do both things.
Yeah. Well, I
And
think because
yeah,
sorry, I think one of the things that I quite like about it is that it's you might have a song that is this sort of sort of social commentary type thing, but then on another track it might be girl kiss boy type of thing.
Hmm.
And it's so I guess really the point I'm trying is that you're not it's not every song that you're trying to
Yeah.
make a social statement. And personally, I feel that's probably actually more heavy hitting than a band that does that on every track, if that makes
yeah,
some kind of sense.
yeah. I think that's a good observation, and also, it's also about the fact that you know many bands obviously they want to sing about this stuff, but then like maybe we shouldn't, maybe the radio won't play it or whatever. Playing it safe has never really been the solution to anything. So if something pisses you off, you might as well say it. Um, and I believe that it's even more relatable, like Ollie said, looking at idols, the stuff they sing about, you can just relate because it's the truth, and there's no point, disguising it with crazy metaphors or whatever.
Hmm.
So yeah, every once in a while, we just have to blow some steam as well, and I think that's a good way to do it. Um, so yeah,
There we go. So with the release of No Future, we obviously touched on it a little bit there. in the intro, this is obviously leading towards EP number 3. Then I'm right in assuming.
Absolutely, yeah. So, in fact, we've got
EP
a
number
three
4.
track.
EP number 4, yes. Sorry, including
Yeah,
the live as well. Sorry, yeah.
yeah. It's a 3-track EP.
Yeah.
So we've got No Future. We've got the second song out on the 25th of October, and then the full thing will be released on the 22nd of November. So yeah, another 3 tracks, and that's going to be it for this year from us. But we've heard obviously all of them, and let's
That's
just put it this
reassuring
way.
to know.
Let's just put it this way. It gets even better, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Brilliant. Okay, so that certainly sounds like it's going to be exciting and yeah, quite busy couple of months then, really, for you guys. But sort of obviously you're doing this all, DIY. It's all self-release. So, kind of like then, what sort of are the challenges as an indie artist have you been facing, and sort of kind of like how do you overcome them as well?
We don't know, first of all. To the second question, we have no idea, actually. Funny you should mention that, because we were going to ask you.
I'm probably the wrong person to
Yeah.
ask.
Oh, well, we've been asking everyone. I think there's a multitude of things as an indie band that are really hard to. You have to for a time you have to accept it, and then you have to kind of push back on it and say how do we overcome this? One is money. Money is the thing that will fold most bands because it costs money to practice, costs money for the even just to not just to buy instruments, but to the upkeep of them. It costs money to go on tour. It costs money to go to the studio to release music. You get no money. I read a statistic today that the base salary for someone at Spotify is about £68,000. And if you to earn minimum wage from Spotify streams, you have to your one of your songs has to stream, or you have to have 7.5 million streams. I think it was a week or something like that. So
Wow.
so it's money. The only way you earn money is if you go on tour, but you can't go on tour on an effective tour unless you've got a good audience.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a good audience unless you're getting all the streams. It's a black hole of bollocks that we are stuck in, and you just have to keep going. The only thing that I think we all agree on is persistence. And if you can some way overcome the money situation, then eventually through time you get lucky and you get better and you meet the right people. There's no easy or simple way of doing it. The people that have, are ahead of us have been doing it for longer or are lucky or are better because they've just, like I said, they've been going for longer. They're, whatever. There's so many things that it's really difficult to overcome. And being musicians and artists, that's kind of what you just want to focus on, isn't it? But we have to do the whole business side of things, and it's like having a second job. We've all got jobs, don't we? So it's when people go, oh, what you do? So you in the office today? Yeah, I'm in the office. Then I'm going to the band practice 8 till 12 or whatever, and then we'll do it again tomorrow, and then we've got a gig the next day, and then I'm back. It's 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you only get paid for one, and the other one eats up all that pay you get from first job. So it's it's tricky. But Ollie, I think persistence is the word. And I send out 150 emails every week. So yeah, we all do, to promoters, to venues, to radio stations, and when you send 1,000 emails, you might just get one back asking you to support James Blunt. It's literally that persistence and never giving up, and being able to deal with rejection as well. So because it becomes part of daily business to get rejected. And then you see, I send Ollie something today of a band getting played on a radio station I was planning on getting played on, but they didn't play us, they played them. And I was like, why are they playing them? We work a lot harder and our music's a lot better.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, that's very subjective. Anyway,
No, you're right. We are so much better. Anyway,
but
it's true.
Thanks. But the point is, you can't let that stop you. You have to keep going. And as long as you force luck enough, at some point you will get lucky.
Yeah, sure, okay. It's a really interesting perspective, and for what it's worth, I do agree with you guys. I can see probably quite oblivious to it probably before I got involved in doing the podcast and the blogging and stuff. And it is quite sad in many ways to see that, people are putting their heart and soul into it up on the stage from what you actually, when you go into gigs as a fan, but then you then start considering all the other stuff that you've been talking about, the practice, buying the instruments, having to pay for your Spotify account, and all that with your, pre-save and everything else, and then at the end of it, not getting much money out of the gig side of it. So I can totally understand where you're coming from, and I've heard similar stories actually to what you've just said there. We're going to come on to the whole James Blunt thing in a minute, and playing live and all of that you've got coming up as well in the next couple of weeks. But one of the questions is, I think it's fair to say it's probably a fairly hot topic at the moment in the music industry. Obviously, Oasis announced a reunion tour for next year, which, as a fan of the band, I'm absolutely delighted. Been there for 30 odd years as a fan, and I'm delighted to hear that. But obviously, the thing I think that's probably got everybody's back up more than anything is this whole surge pricing thing that obviously Ticketmaster obviously put on their sites. I believe that the other two sites, See Tickets and Gigs and Tours, were the original asking price from what I can understand. Not that I've actually known anyone who got any tickets through their website because it was all down. But anyway, so just kind of like really just wanted to ask your opinions on that happening, the surge pricing, and especially obviously we've just been discussing there about the money side of things. Obviously we've seen so many grassroots venues having to close, and obviously bands are struggling. So to see the surge pricing happening, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I look at it as comparable to the social issues in terms of housing. I know this listen, hear me out. About 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, so and further, it's so much easier to buy a house and then you accumulate the profit from that house with inflation as the years go on. What Oasis has done is they become a big band. Back then, they've split up, didn't really split up. They knew they were going to come back eventually and take the piss and charge people extortionate prices after depriving them of their music. I don't think it's right at all, because at the end of the day, the people that are suffering in the music industry is not just smaller artists, it is the audience, like you said, and it is the music venues. And for a band that are supposedly socially aware and politically aware, and they stand up for certain things. They may, people might think they're assholes for saying this and that about other artists. I can give a fuck even if they turn around and say the Great Ladies are a bunch of wankers. I don't give a shit about what they think. But they're supposedly, the working people's band, and they charge those prices. I think it's utterly ridiculous. Ticketmaster, if Oasis, if Noel and Liam turned around and said you can't charge them that price, then they wouldn't. They have that power. They are that powerful. Simple. It's down to them, and it's disgusting. There's so many people that will never be able to see them because of those kinds of prices.
It's always down to the artist, and that's the one thing I would question. I would not question a company per se, when they try to maximize their revenue.
That's their job.
I've actually worked in hospitality for a few years, and dynamic pricing, which means that the more demand, the higher the prices are. You start at 75 quid and then it increases. That's completely normal, and every company in the world does that, or should be doing it at least. Airlines do it, for example. It's a great example. And I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is the artists. I don't want to say, yeah, don't get me wrong, I like Oasis, but it's down to them. And when Taylor Swift or Oasis or whoever it is, or the Stones say, I'm not going to sell the tickets for more than £150 or for more than £100 or whatever, the promoter can't do that because they have that power. That's a fact. And regardless of the fact that I would never pay £150 to see Oasis, because I've seen them both separately. I've seen Noel in Hungary and Liam in Germany, and they were both very average, in my opinion. I have no intention of seeing them together now. But at the end of the day, it's just representative of the society. 1% of the world's population owns 50% of all the wealth, and in the same way, 1% of artists probably owns 90% of the market. And they can just do whatever the fuck they want, basically, and they are. Now, this might be because Noah Gallagher's getting a divorce, which is apparently very expensive. So maybe that's the reason, but who knows? Yeah, that's just my opinion. Disagree with me, but I think it's not right.
Yeah, I think I think it's incumbent upon artists to actually give a shit about other artists, because no one else really does. People love, you get fans that love the bands and the music, and that's amazing. And those people are what make what we do worth what we do. But we have to look out for each other. And if the biggest artists in the world are basically are doing that, are saying this is, there is no way you can get into my gig unless you say pay minimum 150 quid, then it's just no good for the rest of us. None of us benefit apart from Oasis.
Mark, I mean, you said that you've been a fan, for 30 odd years, but
yeah, what do you think?
But what do you think? Because I'm wondering, are they gaining fans with this, or are they losing fans with this? Because at the end of the day, they probably don't even care. But what does it feel like to someone who's a real fan? Because
yeah,
sorry, go on.
Before we found out the ticket pricing, I genuinely thought it was going to be about 150 quid for the standing ticket, just because having seen, I think Taylor Swift last year was at Wembley, or sorry, this year, wasn't it at Wembley? Or was it this year? Whenever it was,
Yeah, that was recently.
Was a little bit more than that, and I thought, because of what you were just saying before, Ollie, about the working class band, that maybe they might reduce it a little bit less than that. So I thought that would be about right. And there's been some other, I think Adele was 350 quid. That's a different stadium, different country, but that was 350 quid in Munich, I believe, as well. So yeah, slightly cheaper. However, I don't agree with the surge, the on demand pricing, whatever the word is that's being thrown around. I think that's wrong. I think that a lot of fans that are my age have probably walked away a little bit from that, but I think that maybe people that maybe didn't see them the first time around were probably that keen to go, have gone and got a ticket, unless you were that keen, even as an older fan, that you really, really wanted to go. Because my personal opinion is that it is Noel's paying for his divorce, in my view. And I think this will be the one and only, certainly UK tour that they do. Whether or not if they go off to, like America or Japan after that, remains obviously to be seen. But I know at the time I was quite critical of Ticketmaster with doing this on demand things. I know it's quite a big thing, particularly in America, that they've done that with other events there. But having gone a little bit more research into it as well, sort of finding out that actually the band, as you guys have already rightly said, could have said no, then I sort of feel that they do deserve and on this, regarding that, I think they do deserve the criticism for that on demand pricing really, because I don't feel that's fair. And obviously as we've touched on already in the podcast, we were all aware of the, some of the social issues, cost of living crisis that we were going through last year. Energy bills are going to be increasing again in a couple of months' time, another 10% on top of that, and it's just kind of like, read the room, guys. But yeah, I guess it is what it is, and from their point of view, they'll be laughing to a degree. Not laughing necessarily, that's it, the cost of living crisis, but the tour's sold out, and they're going to get paid whatever it is, 10, 20 million plus whatever they're earning. So I guess it's trying to work out that balance, I suppose, really.
Absolutely. I mean, regardless of all of that, it's a shame it's not being televised. I mean, they've said that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, everyone's we all have our phones, and so eventually it will be televised. But I think it could be quite a cool show, to be honest. Just because it's nostalgia. It's just nostalgia, and we know how powerful that can be. So even though I think they haven't really done this the right way, I think the shows will still be pretty good. And I'm really looking forward to the footage.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they'll do either a live album, DVD and vinyl and all that at some point.
That's probably the reason.
Yeah. And it wouldn't surprise.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, you've got to cash in, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they turn around and said, no mobile phones. Here's a case. It gets locked, and you can't open it until the gig's finished, because they want to keep it all under wraps. So yeah, I guess we'll find out on, was it June the 5th? I think is the first date. So we'll soon find out.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about Oasis. Let's go back to the great Leslie. Obviously, we touched a little bit of the headline tour earlier on, but obviously you've been sort of fairly active over the summer. You've obviously played at Henley Festival, but I think it's probably fair to say that the standout moment for you was heading over to Germany. I'm not going to pronounce the festival name. I think, probably embarrass myself, so I'll save that maybe for one of you two. Obviously, you was on the same bill, supported James Blunt as well. So just tell us, how did that opportunity come about to play in Germany?
Well, pure dumb luck and persistence. So basically, first of all, the festival is called the Stimmen Festival, which means voices in German. And because the festival was in a small town near Basel, Switzerland, which is sort of on the French, Swiss, German, it's on the border right there.
Yeah.
Where all the three countries come together, and that's where I'm from. So that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
I went to that festival a couple of times as a kid. Saw massive acts there. So Liam Gallagher, I saw there, for example. Basically, I just sent them an email. I sent them an email saying, "Look, I grew up there. Do you have anything available for us? I'm here now. I'm in this band. We're doing quite well." And then they sent me an email back, and they say, "Yeah, looks great. That's the standard email you usually get from the big festivals. We'll consider it." And it took 2 months, and then they sent me an email back, and they said, "We have something available. Do you want to do support for James Blunt?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, we'll do that." Who was also, I think, the biggest artist on this year's lineup.
Yeah.
And then it was quite the experience, wasn't it, Ollie? I mean, it was our first gig in Germany. We've played in France before, but there was a couple thousand people. It was a massive stage. So yeah, Ollie, elaborate on that experience, because for me, I mean, I grew up there. I know what it's like there, but for you guys, it was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about, I think it was about 3,500 people.
It's massive.
Yeah, it was great. It's a beautiful place. It's a really peculiar, in a positive way, area, because you're on the border of France and Germany and Switzerland, and now I'm like, where are we now? France. It's a lovely place, and we had a few practice gigs before we came. Just low key, kind of just so we can, come get familiar with the set that we were going to play. And we came, and we came about, I think, 3 or 4 days beforehand, and we just practiced every day, had a good time, hanging out with each other. It was really nice. It's a bit like a holiday, really. And then at the end, we got to do what we love to do. And James Blunt himself was really lovely. He was very nice. I think they'd been touring for a couple of months, and I think they needed a bit of a rest. So he was a bit his voice was slightly hoarse when he was talking, but then when we got on stage, it was pretty bang on. But yeah, we had a great time, and the last time we played to a crowd like that was in Manchester when we supported Franz Ferdinand.
Mhm.
So it wasn't unfamiliar, but it definitely was. Um, it was scary, because I do get like, not I don't get it as much anymore, but I get stage fright. And I've been over the past year or so, that's definitely been getting a lot better, and I don't really feel that too much anymore with regular stages. So when it came around to doing this, I was like, oh, that's happening. I was like, oh shit, oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of going to do vocal warm-ups in this little glass box. It was literally a glass box in the I don't know how to describe it to you, but in this kind of museum that we were pitched up in. And then for about half an hour to an hour before the gig, I just didn't say anything, and I saw everyone else was getting really excited, and I was like, okay, you gotta control yourself. But I think one of the really nice things from it, apart from having I think it was a great performance, and we all did really well, and it was really, honestly, we had such a nice time, and such an amazing time afterwards, talking to people, signing stuff, taking photos, and all that sort of stuff. But what was really nice was actually seeing my mate who, grew up around that area, got to talk to people that he knew on a big stage, and he got to to say thank you, and that was actually really sweet to see Fred, be able to almost fulfill a small part of his dream. So that was really nice.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was for me. I mean, that was, when you're on stage and in London or I don't know Manchester or wherever, you might know one or two people,
Mhm.
but I walked up on the stage and among those 3,500 or however many people it was, I started spotting people, and I saw, because I wear the sunglasses on stage as well, right? And I saw that they were looking at me and they were thinking, I know that guy from somewhere. And then all of a sudden, people, in between songs, they started shouting my name, and I was like, "Yeah, I saw you. We'll speak later." So that happened quite a few times, and it was just so funny because you realize that more and more people realize, "Oh shit, I actually know this guy. I went to school with him or whatever,"
Hmm.
and but I had no idea I was doing this. So that was a very very funny situation, and made it a lot easier for me as well to perform under that kind of pressure. And I think we nailed it. You wouldn't expect people who like James Blunt to enjoy a sort of heavy indie rock
Yeah.
band, but as it turns out, they all loved us. Like they were all clapping along, and some of them even listened beforehand. They knew the words. They were
Hmm.
singing along, and then I don't know how many T-shirts we signed after the gig, hundreds, literally. And that was just great to see because we didn't expect it. We thought James Blunt, okay, let's do it. But people actually really enjoyed the music, and they followed us on social media, and they were messaging us the next day. Like, that was crazy. So yeah, that was a fantastic experience all around.
Yeah.
But let me just say one thing. There was one woman, right, who clearly, to my eyes, was a James Blunt fan. Now, she was, I don't know what Nash, I'm presuming she was German. She could have been Swiss, but I'm pretty sure she was German. And every time we played a new song, she was like, oh, 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 oh. And her
Another
family.
one.
I think she must have been. I think she was about 70 or 80 years old, but she was quite. She was getting on, but she was absolutely losing her shit every time we played a new song, and her family who were around her were like, "Calm down, calm."
Maybe it wasn't loud enough for her. Maybe she was that old. She's like, turn it up, turn it up.
Should have like broken out into a James Blunt song or something and just seen what her reaction would have been then.
Yeah, I'm sure James Blunt would have loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. When we played our poppier songs, when she had her arms crossed, I saw her turning her head, going, "Oh, that sounds okay." But yeah, if she wasn't into the rock, I don't think.
Well, it sounds like you won her over though.
Yeah. Well, I hope.
So, regarding sort of continuing the sort of the live theme, really, so obviously you've got a couple of live dates coming up. First of all, you're headlining the Brixton Jam on the 13th of September, and then on the 3rd of October, you are at Two Palms in Hackney. The ticket links are going to be up in the episode bio as well, so do go and check those out and go and buy a ticket as well. So, how excited are you for these shows that are coming up?
You know, since we haven't been on a stage in a while, I'm really nervous. No, because it's 10 days from now. And yeah, it's always, those intimate shows. I mean, Brixton Jam is fairly big, but it's still more intimate than playing, in front of 3,000 people. So yeah, no, I'm quite nervous. I'm just realizing now. But on the other hand, we've got new music out and we want to play it. And the new songs, they really drive. And yeah, so I can't wait. And then obviously, you release an EP and then you have to do a tour as well. So very happy to announce that there will be a tour as well, in November and early December. So we're going to announce that very soon as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's always a degree of because when you're on tour, it's a very different thing to just every now and again doing a gig. There's so much to do other than gig as an indie band, but yeah, when you're on tour, if you're just constantly doing it, you don't like Fred said, well, contrary to what not necessarily contrary, but the point is, if you're gigging all the time, you don't get those nerves. You're just like, okay, sweet, up, same set, bush,
Yep.
everything
True.
runs smoothly. You don't have to worry about anything. It's all there. Night after night, you're doing the same thing, and you're just enjoying it even more because you feel more free. So when you do have a bit of time off, and we've inadvertently had a bit of a summer break, even though we have been essentially preparing this EP and preparing the release. Yeah, you do get a bit nervous. I'm a bit nervous, but good nervous. Excited to get back to it, and excited to play the new tracks because they're great and they're good fun, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people down. And then the Two Palms gig, that's supporting. Who's that supporting, Fred? I can't remember.
The Cheap Thrills.
Cheap Thrills, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're a great band, so it'll be good to play with them. But yeah, it's going to be good, and the tour is going to be great fun. Like Fred said earlier, we're going to be playing in a few different areas that we've never played before, so that'll be great. It's one of those things where you're just talking about it and planning it, and then when you start to do it, it's like, okay, this is great. It's the talking and planning that we don't really like, but we've got to do it.
Doing's all right, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look back on your 2024 so far, have there kind of like been any defining moments across the year that sort of made you think, do you know what, we're on to something here, and this is what we want to do, like forever in effect?
Yeah, I think I'll if you don't mind me going first, Fred.
Yeah, go on.
I think as you go on, and as we were mentioning earlier, as you persist and you get into that mindset of never giving up and fuck everyone else because this is what I want to do. There are 100% still times where I go, oh fucking hell. Oh God, I don't know. Is this gonna? Are we gonna? Is this gonna go anywhere? And then suddenly there's a glimmer of hope. There's a bit of light. There's one person coming up to you and saying your music means something to me. There's one gig where everyone goes crazy. There's one interview where someone's really complimentary or just goes really well. There's these tiny little things dotted around. And I think for me, ever since I was a kid, there was always the understanding that I wanted to do this forever, regardless of what happened. And I think we're onto something just because we work really hard and we love what we do and we're not going to give up. Like we could do this in a million billion different forms and we would still push through and we would be successful. That's what I think.
Sure. How about you, Fred?
Well, since you're asking for a specific moment in 2024, for me, that is probably when they put my face on the newspaper in Germany, because there's a local newspaper, and yeah, I mean the newspaper's still a thing there.
Yeah.
People are
Unlike
very
here,
Yeah, Germans like to read.
yeah.
They're
Well,
so clever.
that's not the point I'm trying to make on it. But yes, no, it's when you see your face on the newspaper and you know that 300,000 people can have access to this newspaper, and all of a sudden you get messages from random people. It's like, what the fuck? What is your face doing on there? It was a massive article. There was two actually. So that was the moment for me where I realized, okay, you know what? Let's keep pushing, and eventually, this is gonna take off completely.
Yeah.
Very defining moment for me.
Yeah, well, and understandable, really, to be fair. Obviously, what you're saying before about growing up in that region as well obviously means, I guess, a little bit more. And Ollie, as you saying, agree totally. Just keep persisting because it will happen. It's just keep going at it, and as I say, it will happen. I'm sure of that. So on every This Is the Music Meets podcast, we ask all of our guests a series of questions that are designed to be a little bit more light-hearted and help the listeners find out a little bit more about you as an artist. So the first question is, what artists on that sort of underground, sort of grassroots new music scene have you guys been checking out over the last sort of 12 months or so?
Do you want to go first, Fred, or shall I?
You go first, because
Yeah.
go on. I don't want to say Wonder Horse because they're massive now, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
they're doing really well. Yeah, because my mate from university is actually the bassist, and I remember hearing the first time I heard one of their songs, and I was like, these guys are great. And then I looked at a picture of them, I was like, is that Pete? When you I messaged him, I was like, you in Wonder Horse? But yeah, no, they're doing really well, and they are really great. So if anyone has the chance to listen to them, they should.
and then for me, the Fiends. I'm not sure if you've listened to the Fiends,
A
but
little
we've
bit,
played
yeah.
with them. We've played with them twice. Once in Sheffield, that was on our tour where there was probably 25, maybe 30 people, and then afterwards, because I've always liked their music, and then we've played with them in London where we had a sold out headline show, and they were like, "Oh shit, this is very different." And they're just so humble guys, and their music is just so it's a bit grungy, I guess. But yeah, the Fiends, definitely check them out. I think they've got a single out soon as well. So I've been listening to them non-stop. Yeah.
Yeah. I know this isn't a revelation, but I have just started listening to a lot of Fontaine's DC. Just because when Glastonbury was around, I really like Idols. Everyone was going, "Oh, Idols are Fontaine's DC," and I'd heard of Fontaine's DC, but I'd never really listened to their music. And then obviously their new album's out. What's it called? Romance or something. And that song, oh God, what's it called? It's such a good song. I think it's the title track of the. Hang on, one sec, I'll have a look. But
But yeah, they're kind of blowing up right now,
it's
aren't they?
called
Yeah, they are,
Favorite.
yeah.
Yeah. They're really good. But We've got to think of some more obscure bands, I think.
Oh, there's there's one. It's a shame Ryan isn't here because Ryan and I love that band. They're called Bo Bowen, and Bo Bowen is a two-piece band from I believe Manchester area, and their music is so strange, but it's to a degree where it's really good because you've never heard anything like it before. So
hmm
Bo Bo as in Beau, Bowen. Honestly, even their outfits and their instruments, it's mad. I can't even explain this. It's like opera singing with like a synth pop metal background.
Oh,
I don't
right.
know.
Wow.
Yeah, Bo Bowen is probably the craziest band I've heard in a long time. Yeah.
Teenage dads, they're a bit poppy.
Mm.
Well, I say they're a bit as if it's pejorative. I don't mean that. I mean they're a bit poppier than I would normally listen to, but they're really they got some really cool hooks and they're really good songwriters. There's so
Yeah.
many others
There's a few, yeah.
it's literally just like it's escaped me. I talk about so many bands and now I can't remember any of them.
It's
I only ever
always the
talk about
way.
one band.
There's so many out there at the minute. It is absolutely
Yeah.
crazy, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
I
played
think
with a
that's
lot of great,
it's
a lot
a
of great.
good, yeah. I think it's a pretty good list now. Yeah,
Mm.
solid.
Yeah, no, definitely. I hope that this doesn't happen, by the way, just to put this caveat in this before this question is asked. But if your van broke down in the middle of nowhere, which band member would you send to go and find help and why?
Oh, it's difficult.
Oh.
Who's the
Well, we
most
don't have a
trustworthy? Who's
we
most
don't have a
likely to
van.
come back and find someone and get come back to you guys?
I think. Well, I feel like you're the best, or either you or Alfie would like to think that he's good with cars or vans. Maybe you should stay with the car.
Well, you have to go out get help. That was the question, not fix the car.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, well, I'm trying to preclude the. Okay, so if that
We
person's
can just
going, this person can fuck up the van even more.
I think we should get Alfie to push the van
Yeah.
out of the desert because he's an animal.
Um, I think you or I, Fred, I think would go.
Okay.
Not that I'm
Okay.
not saying that. I think I think I would trust Ryan, but I don't really know. I don't know if he'd want to.
His sense of orientation is a catastrophe, though.
Yeah, that is bad actually. It is bad. And then
Which
Alfie would, but I think Alfie would do it, but he would scare people away.
No,
So
he would probably get distracted by a scorpion or something.
yeah. No, he'd go on an
Look
adventure
up.
that would see him in 2 weeks. Would be like, "Where were you?"
Oh
What,
shit,
you're
the van!
dead? Yeah.
Oh, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
That is a great answer. Yeah,
I like that. That's good. That's good.
it's one of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If if the Great Leslie was a type of food, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm going to say
When you say type of food, are you talking about like a cuisine or a specific dish, or does it?
Can be anything that you want.
Hmm.
well, I'm going to say it's like an artichoke because you've got the.
Why?
Well,
Why an artichoke?
because it's first of all it's nice to look at, and then it's hard, and you have to, it's like our music, which is sometimes hard, but then once you actually get into it, you get the sweet heart of the artichoke, where
Interesting.
there's an actual message, and just for completely normal guys who just want to play music. So that's what I would say.
I'd say spaghetti meatballs.
That's good. That's good too.
Spicy because it's just so damn tasty.
Arrabbiata.
It's almost everyone's favorite dish, but it's got a solid bang to it, and you get excited every time you're going to have it, and you're not upset by the consequences. You just it's the best thing that that if you're having spaghetti meatballs for dinner, then forget the rest of the day. The whole day is gone. You're just thinking about meatballs all day, as far as I'm concerned.
Brilliant, love that. Two fantastic answers there. And what is the funniest or maybe weirdest thing that's happened whilst recording in the studio?
Ooh.
Funny, I don't know. We don't have a lot of fun in this band, but weird. I think it was pretty weird. We were recording at this converted barn. It's called Bam Bam Studios, and they just renovated the whole place, and they had all the ceilings redone. And it was the, I don't know the word now, the plaster
Yeah.
plastering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plaster, yeah.
So that was brand new, and I'm not sure if it was fully dry, but we played so loud and we had the amps up to 10. So basically, bits of the ceiling started coming down. And at first, it landed on my amp and the guitars, and I was like, "What is that?" Until we realized that the ceiling's coming down.
Yeah.
So
We
yeah,
are
after we
literally
left,
bringing the fucking roof down. Come and see it live, for God's sake.
and then he had a guest book as well, the guy who owns the studio, and we just put in, "Sorry for breaking your roof," and they had to get it fixed after we left, which is quite funny. That must have cost them a fortune, but yeah.
Brilliant, and that is a great way to promote the upcoming tour, Ollie, as you just said there as well. And kind of like you have already touched on this, to be fair, already on in the podcast, but kind of like, what are the Great Leslie's plans for the rest of 2024?
Just to tour and write and hope that someone will give us a lot of money for it. But yeah, no, it's we got the tour, and we are in the kind of the midst of preparing for next year, preparing for tours for next year, throughout the year, and trying to get. I mean, it's a bit wanky to get a 12-month plan in place, because you just don't know what's going to happen. But we like to be well ahead of it, especially when we're releasing music, because there's just so much you have to do around a release. It's not just uploading stuff. If you want anyone to listen to it, there's a multitude of different things we've got to do. So yeah, just planning what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. It's not that much fun, but everyone else can enjoy the fruits of our labor when it happens.
Great stuff. And look, Ollie and Freddie, look, thanks very much for coming on to This Is The Music Meets podcast. Really enjoyed that and had a good laugh with you both. But before I do let you go, can you just let the This Is The Music listeners know where they can find you on social media?
Absolutely, yes. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's all the Great Leslie Band on there. And then, of course, on our website, www.thegreatlesllieband.com as well. And, of course, listen to us on Spotify or whatever streaming platform you're using. We are everywhere. So, yeah, make sure to give us a follow. Also on TikTok, where we are upping our TikTok game. So definitely, yeah, step by.
Brilliant. Look, great stuff. And look, we'll put those links in the episode bio, along as well with the link to the new single, No Future, which is out now. Ollie and Freddie, as I say, thanks very much for coming on. I've really enjoyed that. And I wish you continued success with the new single, and obviously the forthcoming live dates that you've got, and the tour as well that you've got coming up as well later on in the year.
Awesome. Cheers, Mark.
Thank you so much, Mark. Cheers.
And all that leaves me to say is to thank everyone for tuning in to the latest This Is The Music Meets podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss out on any future episodes. And if you're loving the podcast, then please leave us a rating and written review, as it really does help the artists we interview to be discovered. If you're listening to this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then stay tuned, as at the end of this episode, you'll be able to hear No Future from The Great Leslie, which is the band's brand new single. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you very, very soon for another episode of the This Is The Music Meets podcast.